bending light, slowing down light, accelerate light. So to play with light for photonic circuitry. So very much application oriented because Asia, and I would say also India in this sense, is investing a lot in the direction for post-electronics architectures.
Welcome to Chelonia Podcast, a podcast about the use of scientific discoveries and of technology applications. We provide the best information on projects participated by Chelonia and many more. My name is Gabriella Bernardi, I'm a science journalist, and in today's episode we talk about biophysics with Remo Proietti Zaccaria, head of the Delta Lab at the Italian Institute of Technology and general coordinator of the IIT, Italian Space Agency Initiative, and general coordinator of IIT, European Space Agency Initiative. Professor, nice to meet you. And would you please briefly introduce yourself and talk about your education and work experience?
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me here to attend this podcast. And okay, so coming about me, saying something about me. I'm a physicist, theoretical physicist. I graduated at the University of Modena and in theoretical physics, and I continued this path at the Polytechnic of Torino, and where I obtained my PhD always in a department of physics. So everything started in the field of theoretical physics, and little by little I shifted toward more application-oriented activities. Indeed, after the PhD, I moved to the synchrotron radiation facility in Trieste. And that was the first time I could put my hands somehow in a lab, in a real lab, moving from computers where I was programming for doing theory, and it was an interesting experience. After Trieste, I moved to Japan, where I went as a JSPS fellow, if you want, the similar initiative to the Marie Curie in Europe. And I spent more than 4 years in Japan at the Osaka University at the Department of Applied Physics, as you can see, from theory more and more toward applications. After Japan, I went to China for 2 years, from 2007 to 2009, at the College of Electronic Science and Engineering. And again, you can see the path toward applications. And finally, at the fall of 2009, I was called by IIT to join here. And so I did. I moved from China back to Italy, where in IIT the activity definitely became more application oriented. Okay, so that was about the moving that I have done. But because the moving was not enough, of course, when you start moving, you don't want to stop. In 2016, I started a new activity, always related to China, with the Chinese Academy of Science. And there was, of course, a research activity, because the Chinese Academy of Science, if you want, is similar to our CNR, of course, bigger. And but then the activity definitely shifted toward application because with some colleagues, we started managing a high-tech industrial park, which aims at hosting Western companies which want to expand their business toward China. Of course, must be high-tech companies. So this was about the traveling, if you want. In terms of actual contents, as I mentioned, I started with theoretical physics. And indeed, what I wanted to do, what I did at the time, was to try to investigate the border between quantum physics and macro world. And then after this, when I moved to China, first Japan and China, the direction went toward photonics. In Asia, they definitely look much more the application than here in Europe. And photonics definitely is one of the branches that soon will probably take place of the present electronics. Still, it will require some time, but that is the path that has been taken. And after China and Japan, coming back to IIT, I started working more on sensing, and you listen here, energy. So energy in terms of both energy harvesting and energy storage. And all of these combined with what has been doing in China starting from 2016, which is much more bio-oriented, because the idea was to set up two activities, kind of complementary, each other complementary, so in IIT and in China, and at a certain moment to join the results coming out from these two, from IIT and the Chinese Academy of Science. And so this is the full, if you want, the full path. And because of this, the last step is to create what we are trying to do, and actually we are succeeding, to create the IIT Space Technology Center, because all of these activities, which are kind of, if you want, interdisciplinary, are helping very much in understanding what a center of this kind means and what direction should take.
Impressive, Professor. You have several jobs positions during your career. How did they contribute to your multidisciplinary training? Today, do you feel that it might be easier to follow a path similar to yours?
Yes, absolutely yes to both questions. In fact, I have to say that different jobs, different places, different people and mentalities have been definitely and absolutely the key factor that has factors that have helped me to go and to take this direction and to go toward multidisciplinarity. Without this experience, I don't think that this would have happened. As I remember when I was at the university and doing PhD, they were always saying, you should do one thing only. Do one thing, you will become maybe famous in that thing, people will cite you, etc., etc. I decided not to go in that direction for personal reasons, and I prefer to address different problems, different topics, and try to find common points, so to have a wider vision. This has been difficult at the beginning, but I have to say that now it's paying back. Respect to if today there is a possibility for young people to go abroad, yes, even more than before. Luckily, Italy abroad is seen in a very positive way. The perception is very good. So our passport is really good in this sense. And as long as a person, a student, or somebody who wants to follow this kind of career is ready to go abroad with open mind, without any kind of pre-built construction, but respect, then I'm sure they can do it, and they can do it probably for sure much better than I did.
In fact, for your several papers, the fields range from Plasmonic to Nanotech, from Biosensor to Vibrational Spectroscopy. Could you tell us more about each of those fields, and also could you speak to their application effects?
Okay, as you said, there are different topics in the list. However, this list has always a common point because all these activities have always addressed the micro-nano world. So either for energy, for sensing, for bio, I've been always interested at something small. And so that was the point, the direction I took. However, they address different applications. And if we look at where I was working, it is easy to identify the application. For example, in China and Japan, they were very much interested in photonics. And the work I was doing, it was about bending light, slowing down light, accelerate light. So to play with light for photonic circuitry. So very much application oriented, because Asia, and I have to say also India in this sense, is investing a lot in the direction for post-electronics architectures. When I moved to IIT, I started working in the field of plasmonics. If you want, plasmonics is a field where light is always involved, but is combined to electronics, so electrons in this sense. And because it's a hybrid situation, it's much more easy to implement than photonics. Photonics will become something. It's not ready now, but plasmonic it is. So you can find the actual applications, for example, in atomic force microscopes, where Raman sensors based on plasmonics are utilized. 2D sensors are always about Raman, so that is definitely something that is in the market. And then energy, that is another field. Energy, in my view, is divided in two big groups. One is harvesting, and the other one is storage. They are like two faces of the same medal. For the harvesting, I did not address the typical photovoltaics story, which is very well established, is working extremely well. We find photovoltaic panels almost everywhere nowadays. What we have done was working on something different. It's called the rectenna. And the reason that this new kind of devices, which are very far away to be practical, to go to the market, have the advantage of working day and night. You know, photovoltaics can work only during the day. And the reason they can work with any radiation. So you can think of application on Earth and other planets, etc. And then combining them with batteries. So we started this activity in 2016 for 15-16, starting from the big batteries, if you want, not the standard batteries, but the idea is always to go toward micro devices and to combine them with harvesting and finally with the biology activity that have been running in China, because you can envision sensors that can be implanted in your device and then can tell you in real time 24/7 the state of health of each individual that can wear this structure. So you have an energy harvester, the energy storage system, a sensor, and it can communicate. For example, you can think of a smartwatch of next generation, and they can tell you what is going to be. In fact, from my perspective, the technology in this kind of application is not the problem. The problem is, of course, the societal acceptance of something like this. It's not easy to accept the idea to have something implanted in your body. We can see at the vaccine story. Many people are not happy with the idea of getting a vaccination done. So this is the real problem, not the technological one.
So, Professor, nowadays you travel around Italy and China. What type of research are you currently conducting, and how do you manage to get everything done?
Well, the managing is possible because of the people. I'm just a guy traveling back and forth, but the people who do the actual work are really, really good. Without them, nothing could have been done. I would not have stories to tell. And there are excellent people both here and in China. And so even though because of this pandemic issue, I could not go to China already for almost 18 months. And I have to say that the people there are very much capable of running things. So we discuss, internet is working fine, so we can have a discussion. And I simply listen and I give my comments, but they do the actual job. So this is how we manage to work in two places, if you want, at the same time. But hopefully, everybody will be able to travel again very soon.
So, have the pandemic restrictions slowed down your research? If so, by how much?
In the Chinese activity has been reduced a little bit from a research point of view, even though I was saying can keep running because of these excellent people. In IIT, it speed up instead, I have to say, because IIT is one of the strategic institutes in Italy, so IIT never closed down. And we have always had people here working, and because of that, we could keep running. The activity improved. In fact, in this direction, I have to say the idea of the concretization of the IIT Center for Space Technology has been really developed in the last year. And in China, vice versa, the growth was very much oriented toward the high-tech park that we have decided to consider to manage, because you have to know that in Asia, not only in China, they really push hard people working in research to support also companies, to create companies, to support companies. And one of the activities that we started is about the managing of a high-tech industrial park, which wants to help Italian, but not only Italian companies, to settle down there and to expand, to enter in the market. Which I have to say is very difficult because the Chinese market and the Chinese people have really different way of thinking.
So, Professor, we are focused on research until now, but are there any opportunities for entrepreneurs to start up or similar?
Yes, yes. So I connect to what I was just saying. Um, in general, I have to say that also in Italy, I would say in Europe and in China, I see very much open, big interest when high tech is put in place. So we know Italy is a kind of traditional country, but it's becoming more and more evident and clear to everybody that either you have added value or you will remain behind. So high tech, space economy goes in that direction. In Asia, this approach started earlier, in particular in China and Korea, because they are newer countries. So they did not have already well-established structures that sometimes slow down everything. So for people who want to start initiatives in high tech, so from research down to the road to go to the product, there are huge opportunities. There are a lot of ways of getting fundings and a lot of ways to collaborate with the university and research centers. Yes.
Is there some aspect of your career or research would you like to talk about?
Well, the main aspect is the luck that I had in meeting great people. Because when you travel and you see and you work, not just as a tourist, but you settle down and you work in a place, sometimes it happens that colleagues become friends. And when colleagues have names like Zhang or names like Italian family names, but which means they carry different cultures, and you see that it can happen in any longitude or latitude, this is something that should be obvious, but it's not always that obvious. At least it's not told us to be obvious. So this is probably will be the best things I will take with me to the end, because this is what will remain much more than any research and the people.
Are there scientific progress that you are thrilled with?
Now the thing that I really want to push through is the realization of the IIT Space Technology Center. If you want, let me use some words that maybe are too big, but I like thinking that way. I would like somehow to contribute to create the Italian Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And JPL is a completely different reality because 6,000 employees, $2.5 billion budget per year. But when it was made, it was much smaller. There were just few students who decided to make something like this. And these centers makes technology that can be used for space application, but not only, in fact, also for Earth application. Italy doesn't have anything like this. We have single initiatives here and there. We have collaboration between the universities and the Italian Space Agency and European Space Agency, but it's still missing a hub. I don't want, at least in my view, is IIT should not create something like this and to have a closed door to build up a wall around it. It should be inclusive. So it should also collaborate with universities and companies to support the Italian system in that direction. So we develop technologies, what we can, what we cannot, we do it with others, and together we do technology. It's very much challenging because there are many heads involved, and many heads also mean different opinions, and sometimes people have their own interests. So it's not easy, but I'm sure, I'm really sure that we need something like this because the major countries are also doing that. And in Europe, we have the example of France and Germany, and they've been pushing this direction quite strongly. So we cannot just sit and look. We have to act.
Challenge do you think there for the next generation of scientists?
If I can give a suggestion, is do not listen too much to the news. What I mean is, now when you listen to the news, they say we need people working in artificial intelligence. We need to have people working in biology, nano-biotechnology, and that's it. It seems that everything is going there. These are very beautiful disciplines, that's clear, but they are already very much specialized. My strong suggestion is to the young generation, study the fundamentals. study mathematics, study chemistry, study physics, build your own fundamentals. Sometimes it's very boring and sometimes it is very tough. But if you have those, then will be in a blink of an eye, you can go in any direction you want. And you can change even fast. If you start doing only one of these things from day one, it will be very difficult to have a larger vision and to address new problems that every day come up.
So, Professor, we are at the end of this podcast, and just a last curiosity. What make you wake up early in the morning or work till late in the night? Or how do you recharge your battery?
I'm very lucky because I really like my job. And it's a job that is always different. Every day is different. And because it cannot be boring by definition, when you wake up, you know that you will have to address new issues, new problems, and that is something exciting. Of course, it can be also tiring, but I'm sure there are jobs that are much more heavy and tiring than city one. So as long as you can get up, go to work, somehow smiling, then it's definitely worthwhile, and that by itself recharges your mind.
So, Shen, thank you so much, our professor, for joining us today at this podcast, and thank you, our listeners. If you have any questions about today's show, you can get in touch on Chelonia Twitter, and feel free to subscribe to Chelonia.Swiss website and be part of the community. In the meantime, stay tuned for our next interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.